You are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the voice of the Knights.
Well, welcome everybody to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Miller, and I am so honored to be joined by the OTA Program Director, Dr. Kim Tanish. Dr. Tanish, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So this is your first time on our podcast. Have you ever been on another podcast?
No, I listen to a lot of them, but never have been on one.
Do you have a favorite?
Anything crime related. Crime Junkie, Dateline. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Probably not how you should spend your free time. Probably should do something more calming.
See, that's the thing, though. Like,
but, you know.
there are certain podcasts I like to listen to in a professional setting, and there are certain ones I like to listen to just for entertainment.
Yeah.
So,
you know, the psychology behind it is what gets me.
That.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad that you are on our podcast. This is the first time. I am very lucky in that a lot of people who are on the show, this is the first time they've ever been on a podcast. So, we welcome you, and we're looking forward to talking about the OTA program.
Same.
Also being joined by Nightly News co-vice president Jules Quare. Jules, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, and Jules has been doing something. So Jules is actually in her next to last term. She's got one more term here, and Jules has sort of been making the rounds on our health sciences programs. We can list them. I know you did dental. I know you did PTA. I know you did Surge Tech. You did OTA. You're working on MA. Did I miss one?
Nope, that just about covers everybody.
Okay, so over the course of the last year, Jules has spent each term working with one of our health sciences programs, not only doing a written piece, but also being on the podcast. And so that's why she's here again, because just recently she posted her sort of feature piece about the OTA program. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about what the curriculum's like, what the job outlook is like, and also how people who are prospective students can get involved, as well as the experiential learning model through the West Shore Connect that the OTA program has enacted. So let's start at the beginning. For those who are not familiar with what occupational therapy assistants do, can you share with us what that job might look like, or what some of the classes that they're going to take are going to look like?
Yeah, of course. I feel like the beauty of the occupational therapy field is nobody really knows what we do. So it's a little bit of a blessing and a curse in the sense that we always have to explain ourselves, right? We always have to kind of go into this very large dissertation about what we're able to do because we're able to do a lot. So occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants can work with anybody from birth to death. So from babies who were born prematurely or who have developmental delays or developmental diagnoses, to older adults who are wanting to stay in their homes and needing rehabilitation to be able to stay there. So anywhere in the middle, right? So we work on, when we talk about an occupation, we always say that an occupation is anything that occupies your time in a 24-hour period. So getting yourself ready, getting yourself from point A to point B, cleaning, cooking, work, school, what you do for fun, all of those sort of things. So we are trained to adjust or adapt or address any of those occupations to be able to help individuals get to a high quality of life. So when you're thinking about where you can work as an OT practitioner, it can be anywhere. We work in hospitals, nursing facilities, long-term care, short-term rehab, schools, in homes. And again, we can work with a variety of populations in those settings with lots of different things, because each of what we do for us as humans are different. Our occupational engagement is very different. So we all have very, very unique needs with that. So it really kind of opens the door for what we can address and how we address it. I always say it's really, really hard to get bored as an OT, because even in our program, we are training the students who are coming in to be able to be prepared to walk into any setting, to treat a client in any situation, in any stage of their life, to be able to meet their needs. And our goals are always thinking about quality of life and getting somebody to that personalized high quality of life, what matters to them.
Would you say that if an OTA who's here at Central Penn has a desire to work with a specific population, meaning whether it would be kids, whether it might be senior citizens. Do you have the ability to sort of specialize in the program with specific populations, or is that not necessary? Is that something that's more in the clinical area that they're building experience in?
Our goal in the program is to create a generalist practitioner, meaning that they can, again, walk out and if they want to treat a child, they can treat a child. They could treat, an elderly individual the next day. There can be a lot more specialization after graduation. And partly why we kind of go with that generalist idea or curriculum is to be a practitioner, you have to take a national board exam, and that national board exam is all encompassing. And you need to pass that exam to be able to practice in any one of the United States. So our goal is to, again, not only teach our students what skills they need to be a good therapist and be a good practitioner, but also the skills needed to take that exam and pass that exam. But specialization opportunities after graduation and in the field are very common. And oftentimes I do think individuals find their niche when they get out in the field and find that population that they are really passionate about.
So you would say if somebody did have a desire to work with a specific population, once they pass their boards, they could then sort of specialize based on the potential clinicals or internships that they would take after the fact.
Absolutely. And we have several students who come in with an idea of what population they want to work with. Obviously, PEDS is a very popular one, the pediatric population, and working with, children with autism or developmental delays and things like that. I always tell students to be open-minded because you never know what you're going to fall in love with. I thought I was going to be a PEDS therapist as well, and I've only worked in geriatrics and my doctorate is in geriatrics. So you got to be a little open-minded with where you'll find your passion. But yeah, I think that the ability to kind of hone in on those things, and we have several students that when they're on their internships or their fieldwork experiences have found their jobs or offered jobs from that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so good. Such a good experience.
Jules, I know you had the opportunity to work in depth with the OTA program, and as somebody who's in the surge tech field, obviously there's at least some parallels. Tell me, what was the thing that you learned about occupational therapists that was most interesting or unique to you that maybe you hadn't thought of when you were going into approaching the story?
So definitely the in-depth of knowledge that you guys go into, because I was interviewing your students and kind of seeing what their points were at. And it was also their biggest comment too, was just not knowing how deep into the knowledge that you guys go in. You guys are going down to diseases, you guys are going into the way the body works. And obviously you need to know how the way your body works when you're going into the health field. But when you're looking at the job where you're seeing somebody who's just directing how to get better, how to work, how to do these exercises, how to practice, you don't think or make that connection that you're going to be learning all of this information. So I thought that was a lot of really interesting. And then program specific, I'll comment on your classroom sizes, which I definitely think is interesting, and I wish we could relate to that. Your classroom is very small, and I think that definitely leaves a lot of room for lab and makes it easier to learn and connect with your teachers. Our class is small, it isn't large, and we can all connect with our teachers fine, but finding time to practice in the lab can definitely be difficult when you're sharing it amongst 30 other people. So I definitely think those are the best things that I would want to highlight on my point for you.
Yeah, I think that's very relevant when you talk about the background knowledge that's needed, because a lot of times I think when individuals are exploring the field of OT and you see a practitioner doing an intervention, if you're thinking about using the example of in a pediatric setting, we're rolling around on the floor on balls, we're playing with blocks, we're making slime, it looks really fun. Or even with my geriatrics patients, I'm making cookies, that looks so fun. You don't think that there's a lot of not that there's not a lot of thought going on in the background, but all of the things that go into that. But really, from an OT perspective, you need to be able to understand anatomy, right? You need to understand the muscles that are involved, because if somebody's having issues stirring the cookie dough, I need to be able to understand what muscles I need to strengthen to help them get back to that, right? Or with the kiddo example, are they not having appropriate sensory input? And I'm choosing those fun activities that look really fun outwardly, but are really addressing their kinesthetic movement needs or their proprioceptive needs or whatever is happening. So there is a lot that goes into the thought process in the background for sure.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Dr. Tanish, I wanted to key in on a quote from Jules' story. And you were talking about how what's unique about OT is that this is a quote, you're not just looking at the physical body, you're looking at the entire person, including the mental health aspect. I got to be honest, and maybe this is just me not being overly as knowledgeable about your field as maybe I should be. I never would have thought that the mental health component was a component of occupational therapy. Can you tell me about how that works in practice?
Of course. Yeah, we began in mental health. That's how the field started. The field started with individuals who were, in asylums like we used to have, chained to walls, not being treated like human beings, and individuals looking at them and saying, like, those are human beings. What are we doing? Like, we can't just leave somebody in a dark room for, 24 hours a day and expect them to be functional. So really, again, we kind of have our roots in mental health and engagement. And now that's very much transitioned into not only looking at diseases that affect the physical body, affecting strength and joint replacements and things like that, but looking at, we are an anxious population, right? And we all have some anxiety and depression and things like that going on. I just read a statistic that I think over 50% of the United States population has a diagnosable condition of anxiety or depression. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then, you think about, how does that impact your function, right? How does that impact your day-to-day? How is that impacting you being able to get your schoolwork done or go to work and things like that? So it's looking at not just the physical diseases, but the mental health conditions that can really impact function. And it might look like we're teaching individuals, maybe it comes down to you just have bad time management habits, right? And you're not, using your time wisely, or you get easily distracted. I'm guilty of this. My phone is my worst nightmare sometimes, and that, I'll be doom scrolling and not doing what I need to do. So it might be looking at those ineffective routines and teaching somebody new routines. It might be looking at unhealthy coping skills that they've developed and teaching them newer coping skills to manage the anxiety. We very much, as OT practitioners, never look at an individual with any sort of disability, whether that's physical or mental, and see the limitation. We see that is an opportunity for improvement or intervention, with, again, the idea always going back to function or quality of life.
How did you get into this business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually think I told Jules this when I did the interview. My entire family is in medicine, so it just kind of felt natural to get into healthcare. I didn't think I wanted to do the whole nursing doctor route. That felt like too much school to me, but I was.
You're a doctor.
Twice, actually.
You
but
literally have your doctorate. So
Yeah.
explain to me how that wasn't too much school.
I know. But that happened after the fact, not in my, 18-year-old teenage brain. I was like, absolutely not. I don't want to do this. Although that's funny, because I was going to go pre-med and be an eye doctor. That was my initial goal. I went pre-med. I was going to be an eye doctor, and I just kind of did. And no offense to any optometrists that are listening, I just kind of said that, like, that wasn't going to fit my personality or what I wanted to do all day long. I just didn't really see that fitting. So did a little bit career exploration, and did some shadowing, did some things, and kind of landed on occupational therapy. And I was like, this is interesting. Like, it's very holistic, very much fit into, I think, my core beliefs in terms of physical wellness, mental wellness, the importance of independence and doing things and making decisions. So it just kind of fit. And then again, I went and shadowed a couple of different places at a couple of different settings. And I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. And here we are.
That brings a really interesting point. So one of the things I've tried to do in some of my communication classes for comm majors is really got into job shadowing. Mm-hmm. And I think that job shadowing is one of the most unique and useful benefits of coming to school, but yet now in the health sciences, you've got much more of an opportunity to get out there into the field and to experience a lot of different elements. And so I just want to make the point that I think for the students who are out there listening, doing like a job shadow on your own is one of the best things that you can do, especially in a situation and scenario like occupational therapy, where you have so many different possible tracks that you can do. Maybe doing a pediatric shadow and a geriatric shadow and a shadow with other folks that have maybe disabilities or what have you, I think might help you kind of lock in on the sort of track that you'd want to take. So I give you a lot of credit with that. But I did want want to ask you, so you said that you do something rather unique with prospective students and about saying that you welcome your prospective students to come and sit in on your classes.
Absolutely. Come hang out. We love prospective students to come in and see, what it's like, what your actual time in the program is like. Our program isn't very long if you look at the big picture. You can finish in 18 to 24 months. You're in and you're out. And oftentimes when students are approaching the end of the program, they're like, oh my goodness, it feels like I just started. And that's very true. It goes so fast, right?
Well, Jules, you can speak to that.
Oh, yeah. I'm already going to be moving into clinicals coming in July here. And I just started in April, and I'm sitting here looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, I'm going to be working in the operating room coming here in a few months. Like, I'll be standing right next to the surgeon going through, and it's just crazy to think about. Like, it's great. Like, I have the knowledge.
You do. Yeah.
But it's
the
I
Central
got
Penn
all the
way.
I got all the knowledge in 18 months, and it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah. So again, I think with that and with the speed and things like that, I think it's great for prospective students to understand what that's going to look like. What does the environment in the class look like? Like, how are the students interacting? How do we as professors interact with our students? Kind of what's the vibe like, for lack of a better word? Because again, you have to be comfortable, I think, where you're getting your education. I think that makes or breaks your educational experience if you're, feel comfortable and things like that. And you had mentioned our smaller class sizes, and I love our smaller class sizes for that reason. We really get to know our students. They get to know us. We're able to kind of share and bounce ideas off of with each other, the students off of us and things like that. And I think it is so beneficial. So the students get very comfortable. So again, we're always welcome. You are not going to just sit and listen to us talk. We get the prospective students involved. We've had our current students transferring prospective students if they're helpful with that or if they're comfortable with that. So I just think it can be a really nice experience.
Well, the last thing, and certainly if anybody would like to take you up on that offer, Dr. Tanish, I will put your information along with the podcast, and you can reach out and set up something for a future term. So I want to just come back to the idea of experiential learning. Now, across Central Penn College, that's one of the things that I feel that we do as good or better than any other college in our area. And it's something that in communication I've continued to work on. Just for instance, earlier in the spring term, was it earlier this term? Might have been in the winter term when we had our job shadow day with members first. Just things like that, because we are a smaller and maybe more agile institution. We have the ability to do more experiential projects that I think in the era of artificial intelligence really is in my opinion, the future of higher education, is really kind of branching out in more of that experiential learning opportunities. We have something here on campus that not only do fans of the Nightly News know of our connection with them, but it's the West Shore Connect program. So the West Shore Connect program is a program where the easiest way to explain this is that for individuals with special needs, they are able to attend high school for a longer period of time. I believe it's till age 22. And the problem is that And we've had Kathy Yo from West Shore Connect on the podcast before, and the problem is that a lot of times when that happens, those particular students don't have the opportunity to sort of network with similar aged students because they are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. Their experiences in classes are with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Why West Shore Connect is so unique is they are able to come here, they're able to learn life skills, and they're able to interact on a regular basis with people who are of their own age. And so because I have a son on the autism spectrum, essentially the day that I heard about this, I immediately was gravitated to it. I've tried everything I possibly can to get involved with everything that they're doing. So it's a wonderful, wonderful organization. But Dr. Tanish, tell me a little bit more about how, other than just, having fun with them, about how, the OTA program uses this connection and partnership with West Shore Connect as an experiential learning opportunity.
Yeah, we love the West Shore Connect program. Absolutely. So, similarly, when I heard about the college having the West Shore Connect program, I was immediately like, give me contact information. We need to get involved. Not only is that, individuals who, like you've said, have developmental disabilities or autism or diagnoses that could really benefit. That's very much a population that OT works with on the regular basis. I connected with the directors of the West Shore Connect program, and we, as the OTA students or in the OTA program, work with the students and we teach them life skills, because the goal of the program is when they're done with the West Shore Connect program, they're either going to explore job opportunities or continue their education, again, higher education. So again, lots of life skills needed for that, right? So we have connected with them, and pretty much term over term, we partner with them usually once a week. It's usually several times a term. Usually we try to pick like a Friday or a Monday, and we work with them for 2 to 3 hours in one of our classes. We literally take one of our class sessions, and the students, the OTA students, will develop and run life skills classes. So we have covered everything from safety in online communication, like on social media, safety in dating, cooking. We've made several breakfasts in the multi-purpose room. We've done study skills. We've done money management, all of those things. So it really gives, like you said, all of the students an opportunity to connect with similar age peers. So not only is it the West Shore Connect students are benefiting in learning life skills, they're learning life skills not from adults, right? Not from boring adults who have no idea what we're talking about, right? But they're learning life skills from similar aged peers, which I think are so much more beneficial for them. But then our OTA students are getting so much benefit in learning, how do you need to interact? How do I need to adjust my activities in the moment? What did I think I had planned, and how did it either fall apart or go really, really well, and adjusting that way. And that's really such a skill that is needed as a practitioner as you get out into the field. And again, it's all done under our supervision. We're always there to help, to support, but it's really student led. So we work with the West Shore Connect program director and say, like, what do you think right now they need to work on? Like, what are the most important things? And oftentimes we'll even put that question to the students in the West Shore Connect program. Like, what do you guys want to work on? What's important to you? Usually they pick cooking, which is great because then I get pancakes and it's fantastic, or some sort of snack. But it's a really good opportunity to kind of, for both ends, to have that experience and to learn for our OTA students interactions and intervention planning, and just the experience of working with a population that they will work with in the field.
Jules, we're getting ready to come to the close of the podcast. Do you want to share or either any thoughts or have any final questions for Dr. Tanish?
I don't think I have any questions per se, because we definitely covered a lot in the article, which I'm glad and appreciative of. But I do think it's definitely something that's interesting, and I've been learning a lot more about the program and just the job itself, sitting here on the podcast and interviewing you and the students. Yeah. And it's definitely something to look into if you're wondering what to do in the healthcare field. Like, it's quick program. It gives you a lot of information that's not even just beneficial for the work field, but it's beneficial knowledge for yourself too. It's just useful information to have, I feel, knowing how to go through those exercises. And if you got a hurt ankle, oh, I know what to do. I can give myself an exercise or something like that. Just simple life skills to major life skills, I think, is very interesting things that you guys learn in that class.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the field is growing so much. There's so much of a need for individuals in the field.
And I want to leave it at this, because part of why we wanted Dr. Tanish to come on today is to really share more about the program. But one of the greatest things about Central Penn that I will say is that all of the programs that we have are in extremely high demand. So just before we call it a day here, tell me a little bit more about the jobs outlook for OTA students.
Yeah, so again, I am consistently contacted from employers about, when are your students graduating? We are looking for students to work. We are looking for OTAs. So across all settings too. I recently, I think just this past week alone, I've gotten at least 10 emails from employers saying, hey, I'm looking for 3 or 4 OTAs. I just had a phone call this morning with somebody else looking to hire OTAs in the healthcare field or in the home health setting. So definitely the opportunities are there, and it's growing. It's projected to grow. Again, just speaking to where we are at as a population with the mental health concerns that we've talked about, and just the individuals who are in school and the diagnoses of autism and ADHD and all of the things. And now we have the baby boomer generation now is our aging population, and they're just a large part of the population. So that area of the field is growing. So the opportunities are there for sure.
Well, Dr. Tanish, I thank you so much for joining us today. This was a really amazing look at not only what you get to do every day, but the impact that you have on your students. So thank you so much for coming and sharing more about your program. I mean, this was really amazing, and especially all the way down from allowing students to come into class to the very, very positive jobs outlook to the experiential learning. I mean, this is just a fantastic program that we're so honored that you're at the helm of.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And Jules, well, what is there to say but you continue to do amazing work. We're looking forward. You have got one more of the health sciences. We're going to dive into medical assisting next term and hope that we can get you out of that clinical early enough to have you in for a podcast as you move into your final term. But, Jules, you've really done a tremendous job with chronicling the different health science programs that we have, and I just want to thank you so much for just being you.
I appreciate the opportunity. You know, it's definitely been something to break me out of my shell a little bit and give me a hobby to work on throughout while I'm here at Central Penn. So it's definitely been great.
And it's something you can put in a portfolio, and every single person out there will appreciate it regardless of what business or line of work you're getting into. So, all right, well, I want to thank co-vice president of the Nightly News, Jules Quare, for joining us. I also want to thank Dr. Kim Tanish for joining us here. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Hi, this is Steve Hassinger, Career Services Director. Thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
This is Nightly News correspondent Noah Lopez with the Spring 2026 episode of the Nightly News Brief. This news podcast features audio versions of stories from our student reporters. Articles by Noah Lopez, Jules Quare, Paul Miller, Arsenio Humphrey, and Alex Foley are featured in today's episode. The Nightly News Media Club and Happy Lifestyle teamed up recently for a bingo fundraiser that brought together members of the Central Penn College community and supporters from across the region. The event, held on May 30th, attracted approximately 70 attendees and raised more than $2,500 to support both organizations. Guests enjoyed 10 games of bingo, raffle baskets, 50-50 drawings, and food and beverages throughout the afternoon. The fundraiser was designed to support the continued work of both the Nightly News Media Club and Happy Lifestyle. Happy Lifestyle, which stands for Having a Positive, Powerful Experience, it's a community-based nonprofit that helps individuals facing housing insecurity by creating pathways to employment, stability, and purpose. The organization focuses on skill development, confidence building, and connecting individuals with meaningful work opportunities. The Nightly News Media Club is Central Penn College's 6th-time Pennsylvania News Media Association award-winning student news organization. Event organizers credited the success of the fundraiser to the support of attendees, volunteers, and local sponsors, including Buffalo Wild Wings in Mechanicsburg and Nerdzoic Toys in Lemoyne. Organizers say they are grateful for the community support and look forward to continuing the partnership in the future. Central Penn College senior outfielder Nick Joseph has been named the 2026 Nightly News Athlete of the Year. The award recognizes a student-athlete who demonstrates excellence in athletics, academics, and support of the Nightly News Media organization. Joseph helped lead Central Penn baseball through one of the most successful stretches in program history, earning 3 ESAC Conference championships while also helping the Knights reach the Small College World Series in both of the past 2 seasons. In addition to his success on the field, Joseph was recognized for his professionalism, leadership, and willingness to work with student reporters and broadcasters throughout his career. According to Nightly News co-advisor Paul Miller, Joseph consistently stood out for the way he treated students, whether during the interviews, podcasts, or post-game coverage. Following the award presentation, Joseph said he was surprised to hear his name announced and described the recognition as one of the most meaningful moments of his time at Central Penn. Joseph also thanked the Nightly News media team, saying he always enjoyed participating in podcasts and interviews and was grateful for his experiences as a Knight. As he prepares to graduate with a degree in criminal justice, Joseph leaves behind a legacy of athletic success, leadership, and service to both Central Penn athletics and the Nightly News. Not long ago, Nerdzoic Toy Store wasn't actually a physical store. It wasn't even a business. It was just an idea that hadn't quite figured itself out yet. Today, the Lemoyne-based collectibles business ships thousands of orders each year and has become one of the region's growing destinations for toy collectors and hobby enthusiasts. The business began after owner Matt Roberts shifted his focus from creating restaurant management content to talking about something he genuinely enjoyed: toys. Once they started talking about toys, everything felt easier. The Nerdzoic YouTube channel grew quickly, eventually reaching more than 50,000 subscribers in less than a year. Today, that audience has grown to more than 53,000 subscribers. What started as a small side project selling toys from a basement in February 2021 quickly became something much bigger. Within a relatively short time, the business generated more than $1 million in sales and shipped more than 19,000 orders in the past year alone. But the road wasn't always smooth. In May 2023, a sump pump failure flooded the basement where inventory was stored. Roberts said, quote, "There was about 2 feet of water. You could just see things floating," end quote. For a business built from scratch, it was the kind of moment that could have ended everything. Instead of shutting down, Nerdzoic went live online and showed customers exactly what was happening. The business was moved upstairs into the main part of the house while repairs were completed and operations continued. As the business grew, so did its understanding of its customer base. Unlike traditional toy stores, Nerdzoic's busiest months come after the holidays. Roberts said, quote, "Our busiest months are January and February, after people are done buying for others. They buy for themselves," end quote. Many customers are adults reconnecting with the toys, shows, and characters that defined their childhoods. At the same time, the store has worked to make collecting more accessible to younger customers by offering more affordable entry-level products. In July 2025, Nerdzoic moved into its current storefront in Lemoyne, marking a major step forward for the business. Roberts believes the region's growing interest in collectibles, gaming, and hobby culture has also helped fuel that success. Central Penn College's Occupational Therapy Assistant program is helping students prepare for careers focused on improving quality of life and helping people regain independence. Program Director Kimberly Tanish says the profession takes a broader approach to patient care by focusing on the whole person. Tanish discovered occupational therapy through career research and shadowing experiences. What stood out to her was the profession's holistic approach. Tanish said, quote, "You're not just looking at the physical body, you're looking at the entire person, including the mental health aspect, and helping them be independent," end quote. That perspective eventually led her into teaching. Today, she emphasizes experiential learning and giving students opportunities to work in real-world settings. Students in the program have volunteered at events such as the Special Olympics and the Tim Tebow Foundation's Night to Shine. They've also worked with local nursing facilities to gain first-hand experience with different patient populations. Tanish shared, quote, "We're always trying to get students out into the community, whether it's bringing in guest speakers or taking them to different environments. We want them to see what OT really is." For student Mariah Buck, the decision to pursue OTA came from a desire to help others and be part of a career where she could see progress firsthand. Buck said the program's hands-on learning opportunities have helped her better understand the profession, particularly through lab experiences that allow students to practice the skills they're learning. Fellow student Logan Fulmer entered the program with a background in personal training and said occupational therapy allows him to help people in a different way. Fulmer noted, quote, "I've always liked helping people, but OT helps them in a different way than most occupations," end quote. Students in Central Penn's OTA program say the combination of hands-on learning,
supportive faculty, and real-world experience is preparing them for meaningful careers and helping them make a lasting difference in the lives of others.
Several Central Penn College students and employees recently traveled to Philadelphia to help judge the University of Pennsylvania's annual undergraduate moot court competition. The event allowed participants to evaluate students from some of the nation's top colleges and universities as they argued a fictional case involving real constitutional questions. Debate team members Jared Gander and Arsenio Humphrey, legal studies major Casey Gonzalez, adjunct professor Rachel Baturin, and library director Margaret Shakti attended the competition between the winter and spring terms. Competitors argued the fictional case of Denulf versus State of Olympus before a mock U.S. Supreme Court. The case centered on two major constitutional questions: whether the government can force someone to undergo a brain scan without violating Fifth Amendment protections against self-incrimination, and whether decades of near-total solitary confinement violate the Eighth Amendment's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. While the case was fictional, the issues reflected real debates surrounding the emerging technology and prison conditions. The competition featured 32 teams from institutions including Penn, Temple, Georgetown, Harvard, Princeton, Dartmouth, Amherst, George Washington, and UNC Charlotte. For Central Penn participants, the experience offered a chance to observe how larger institutions approach advocacy and legal education. Gonzalez noted, quote, "It was great getting to see the moot court competition in person and to be part of such a supportive and engaged group. Being there made the learning experience feel more real and interactive." End quote. Library director Margaret Shakti also praised the event. She said, quote, "I had a wonderful time. I was impressed by how knowledgeable and prepared the students were." End quote. Central Penn's debate team is open to students interested in law, business, advocacy, and justice. Students interested in learning more can contact Professor Harry Baturin. Central Penn College's Student Government Association is working to strengthen student engagement on campus through advocacy, awareness, and student-driven initiatives. The organization says its goal is to give students a place to voice their opinions while helping improve everyday campus life. According to SGA advisor and athletic success coach Abby Boreski, student input plays a major role in shaping the organization's priorities. Meetings throughout the term are used to gather feedback, discuss ideas, and plan future events. SGA leaders say these conversations help guide campus improvements and student programming. One of the group's major initiatives this term is a mental health and sleep health awareness campaign planned for May. The campaign will include sleep health information posted across campus, along with a yoga event designed to help students manage stress and improve sleep habits. SGA social media coordinator Jaleesa Johnson said, quote, "The plans are not to only bring awareness to mental health, but to bring awareness to sleep health, which is extremely important." End quote. The SGA is also exploring ways to expand educational events that connect more directly to students' academic programs and career interests. Leaders say they hope to build on successful panel discussions and create more opportunities for students to hear from professionals in their fields of study. While the Activities Advisory Board focuses primarily on social events, SGA's role centers on advocacy, awareness, and improving the student experience. Bresky said, quote, "I think there's a serious power in talking to people and learning their stories. Engagement comes from first building relationships." End quote. SGA leaders say they plan to continue recruiting new members and building opportunities for students to become more involved on campus. The CPC film series returned to the Capitol Blue Cross Theater on May 29th with a triple feature event celebrating the work of Central Penn College alumni. The evening featured 3 films from filmmakers Dylan Bowman and Nick Hogan.
and also marked a first for the series, as Hogan's Nick and Trevor, The First Day, became the first animated film ever screened as part of the CPC film series. Before the screening, both filmmakers joined the Nightly News podcast to discuss their work on creative processes. Bowman, a Fellowship Studios filmmaker and Nightly News Hall of Fame inductee, brought 2 original films to the event, Plaster Heart and Vintage. Plaster Heart follows Ethan, a man who has killed his closest companion after losing the woman he loved to his best friend. After the murder, Ethan discovers a mysterious hole in the basement wall of his apartment building, forcing him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. Bowman said, quote, "The script for Plaster Heart came to me in one night," end quote. Bowman also featured Vintage, a film that previously appeared as a part of the CPC film series, but returned with a newly composed score by Rita Venezali. In talking about Vintage, Bowman noted that, quote, "It has an old soul kind of vibe. I always liked old movies and old things, so that's where my inspiration came from," end quote. Nick and Trevor, The First Day, concluded the evening and marked another milestone for the CPC film series. When asked how he became involved in animation, Hogan traced the project's roots back to elementary school. Hogan shared, quote, "I started working on Nick and Trevor in 4th grade. I made a big comic book, stapled it together, and I was so proud of it," end quote. The story follows Nick Cooper, a teenager attending public high school for the first time after years of online education. Eventually, he befriends Trevor Hampton, a shy student who is frequently bullied, and the two form a bond through their shared experiences as outsiders. After completing an animated pilot episode in 2019, Hogan adapted the story into a webcomic, published on Webtoon, where he has continued releasing episodes since 2023. While their creative processes may differ, both filmmakers demonstrated the power of storytelling through suspense, nostalgia, and personal experiences. For Bowman and Hogan, the CPC film series was an opportunity to return to the place where their creative journeys began and share how far those journeys have taken them. This has been Noah Lopez with the Spring 2026 episode of the Nightly News Brief. This will actually be my last news brief prior to graduation. It has been an immense pleasure to get to join you each term to share what our student reporters have been up to, and I will never forget the opportunity I've received here, and look forward to continuing to be involved with the Nightly News in the future. Go Knights!